In dealing with debt, tips on tipping that will help you stay on budget. Here to help, Ted Rossman, the Senior Industry Credit Analyst at Bankrate.com. Hello, Ted.
Good morning.
Why do you think the topic of tipping is so much on the minds of Americans?
Tipping is such a confusing hot button issue. We're also being asked for tips in more places than ever before. Tipping has been in the news recently because of the no tax on tips legislation that recently passed. That's one of those things that sounds better than it really is. Many tipped workers were not paying taxes anyway because their income was below the reporting threshold, or also because they weren't reporting all of their cash tips. I would like to see the safety net strengthened instead. Many tipped workers don't get paid vacation or retirement benefits or health benefits. It's a precarious position to be in.
What are people telling you about tipping in your survey?
People are annoyed about tipping. About 6 in 10 Americans have a negative viewpoint towards the practice. Some of the most common are that businesses should pay their staff better rather than relying so much on tips. People are also annoyed about those pre-entered tip screens. We see those at coffee shops and food trucks and elsewhere. People think tipping culture has just gotten out of control. And I do understand that argument. I was asked to tip once at a self-checkout machine at Newark Airport. I was asked to tip at a pick-your-own strawberry farm. We're being asked for tips in more places than ever before. Young adults are the worst tippers by far. Even at places where it's conventional to tip, like a sit-down restaurant, we should definitely be tipping there. However, only about 4 in 10 Gen Zers are always tipping at a sit-down restaurant. That compares with more than 8 in 10 Gen Xers and Boomers. Older people have more money. That's part of why they tip better. But young adults also have a bit of a social justice take on this, which is tipping isn't fair and we shouldn't do it. Unfortunately, that's hurting the worker, not the business.
Do most people think the onus should be on the company to pay employees more money?
That is one of the most common complaints that we get. Yeah, about 4 in 10 Americans say that businesses should pay their staff better rather than relying so much on tips. Starbucks is notable because they unveiled credit and debit card tip prompts a few years ago. And they say that about half of their customers are tipping in these instances. That has to be way more than the percentage who were putting bills or coins in the old-fashioned tip jar. So these invitations to tip definitely work, but people are annoyed about them.
What are your tipping tips for people who need to stay on a budget or just want some clear direction?
You don't always need to tip for counter service. If you're just picking up a quick coffee or sandwich order, I wouldn't feel bad about hitting no tip most of the time there. Maybe you tip once in a while if you're a regular or you have an especially big or complicated order. Some of what's going on here is businesses are turning to tipping as a surcharge of sorts. It's a way to raise prices without raising prices. They're trying to funnel more money to their workers. We don't always need to participate in that. I do think, though, that there's a social contract that we should be tipping for things like sit-down dining, although only 7 in 10 diners are always leaving a tip. That one should be 100%. Ideally, you're going to tip about 20% of the bill. I would say that when you get your haircut, you should be tipping. When you get food delivery, when you take a taxi or ride share. Unfortunately, not enough people are tipping in any of these instances. I mentioned only about 7 in 10 restaurant goers always tip. Well, it actually goes down from there. It's more like half for some of these other services like haircuts and food delivery and taxis and ride shares. To me, those are more of the absolutes. The gray area is more of the counter service. There's also a whole group of people that we might tip once a year around the holidays. People like the trash and recycling collectors, the housekeeper, the babysitter. You don't need to tip them every week, but around the holidays, it's a nice gesture.
Such a great topic. Thank you so much, Ted.
No problem. Thank you.